Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Action Show. And as you know, on this show, what do? We get busy, right? With a lesson, a principle, a strategy to help you take imperfect action on your journey of marketing and in business. You know what I'm saying? And yo, it's the 25th show. I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm super excited to be at episode 25. And yo, to be honest with you, I'm trying to load up this virtual stage, but for some reason, the virtual stage is not virtual staging. You know what I'm saying? Whitney was good. Was good. I'm waiting for my guest, the amazing Rakim Sabri, to pop on, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna be talking about personal branding. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about personal branding and why it's so important and why you should be doubling down and getting your, putting that time in it to get your personal brand going. So um, I think my guest is here. So let me bring him on the stage.
Yo, yo,
What's up, bro?
what's going on?
Listen, man. Yo, you guys are in for a treat because this dude is dynamic. He has a lot of value. I fell in love with his charisma and the energy and just like the amount of value he's willing just to give. You know what I'm saying? When he was in our mastermind, I think about a month ago now. So I had to bring him on the show. So this is what I'm gonna do. For the community, we already got some people jumping on right now. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, let them know everything about you. Then I'm going to send a quick little link directly to our community, let them know we're live so we can bring some more people on right now. So,
Perfect.
Rakim, please let them know all about who you are, give them a little bit of your genius, and let me text the community.
Sure. So my name is Rakim Sabri. I'm an author, a columnist, a speaker, and financial coach. I focus on the pathway between financial literacy and financial empowerment, usually obstructed by some form of financial trauma. So I lean into this topic of financial trauma quite a lot. But on the other side of, I guess, the brand building part of me sharing that message, I've also developed some skill around navigating media through publications, through social media, through speaking and writing. And so I want to talk a little bit about all of those wonderful things today. I am approaching 10 months as a full-time entrepreneur. I fired my boss last May,
Hey.
and it's definitely been a journey. So we could talk a little bit about that as well. But prior to full-time entrepreneurship, I was working in banking for about a decade. I started at 21 years old as a part-time teller, and then I left at 31.
A little 10 year, a little rendezvous. I see that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So
But I'm
real
passionate
quick.
about I'm passionate about empowerment. So really, if you look at all of my body of work, yes, I'm very much well known for the personal finance side of things. But when I talk about mentoring, when I talk about entrepreneurship, when I talk about personal finance, it's really around this idea of being an empowered individual. And my target audience, most definitely, are Black people, people that look like me, that experience like me. But that's not to say that Black people are the only people that can get value from the things that I share. And so I try to, kind of cheat on that line where I'm clear about who my target audience is intended to be, but also giving information that many people from various backgrounds can benefit from.
100%, bro. I mean, I hope you guys digested everything that Rakim just shared right there. He's definitely something um, of an amazing individual that you guys definitely need to tap into. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna drop his Instagram below. I'm right in the chat. And as you guys know, Imperfect Action is all about interacting. It's an interactive, I should say, morning show around marketing and business. And it sounds like, yo, to be honest, it sounds like you want to share a little bit more than just the digital personal branding, man. So the show is all about you today. So I wanna let you set the stage. I'll chime in. The community will ask questions as we go along, but I want to give you this time to kind of like steer and navigate the ship how you see fit, bro. So why don't we do that?
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't have a planned set agenda, so what happens happens. But Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to be multifaceted in this world that's so fast paced. So why don't we start there? One of the major roadblocks psychologically that I've had to overcome, that I'm still working on overcoming, in truth, as a full time entrepreneur, is the deprogramming of some of the things that corporate America tells you um, is the way things should be, right? So, a lot of the leadership that I had throughout my career would always congratulate me and celebrate the fact that I was good at a lot of different things. But on the back end of that compliment, it was, well, yeah, you're a jack of all trades, but you need to specialize. You need to specialize. And so that programming that says this is your job title, this is the function of that role, this is all that you can do and get paid for, forget about the other skill sets, is something that I rejected. Like I never felt comfortable with, but it's something certainly that I internalized. And so when you're on your own and you're after figuring out how do you make money, right? How do you put food on the table? You start to realize that money comes in so many different ways and that you have to be open to those different opportunities. Really, being a jack of all trades is an asset when it comes to entrepreneurship. Because if you get pigeonholed into looking at this is the way that I want to make money, and you're not making money that way, well, now you're leaving yourself open and vulnerable for the the downturn and what seasons look like when you're not getting paid. So my primary focus is coaching. When I don't have coaching clients, how do I make money? Like how do I continue to put food on the table? So um, I think that's a good starting point. Just kind of understanding the mindset shift that has to occur when you're moving from a corporate environment into full-time entrepreneurship.
And to double down on what you're saying, the uh, the person that kind of coined that phrase was Victor Vic. I think you pronounce his last name Vicsek. And the actual full quote, which is amazing because people when they say that they don't give the full quote. They only give
Right.
the part of the quote which is going to fare their narrative well. Which is why a lot of people you need to be cautious of where you're getting information from and who you're really dialing into or listening to because they're gonna steer the narrative how they want to steer the narrative. So the full quote is a jack of all trades is a master of none but oftentimes better than a master of one. You know what I'm saying? So really think about that. Rakim was talking about how people were saying early on that hey, you're good at a lot of things, but you need to specialize. And it is true that you should specialize, right? But it doesn't mean that you should negate all the other things that you bring into the marketplace that is of value that you can give and build upon, right? And what happens when you specialize, you're actually really good at one thing that creates more of an opportunity for you to become a specialist and an expert at another thing that you really like or another thing that you really like. And life happens in a cycle situation where it's like, okay, well, this is my season for this, and then this is my season for this, and then this is my season for this. And one of the things I really love to say that I'm definitely going to leave with is a thing called ABL. It's an acronym. I don't know if it's already out there, but I'm gonna just say I'm coining it because that's just what I'm talking about. ABL is always be learning. So I'm learning in real time with Rakim. I was at this event yesterday, this NFT event. I'm learning in real time there. So you never have to be just a jack of all trades and master of none. You could do everything that you want to do, but you just have to segment and maybe compartmentalize how you want to approach that. But we all have so much more value to give on a bunch of levels. So I wanted to just double back on that, kind of add a little bit more context to what you were saying, which I 100% agree with. And now like the power of that personal brand, and what you can do, with that is crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, just bringing in the concept of personal brand, which I think that was the original intent of our conversation, right? Having a strong personal brand allows for, and I'm going to use the word pivot begrudgingly because I've been trying to eliminate that word from my vocabulary, but allows for you to pivot into different avenues that serve you, to your point, pending the season of whatever that change looks like. The reason why I'm trying to remove the word pivot from my vocabulary is because, for one, it's certainly a corporate buzzword, and
Mm.
the impression when you hear that word, the impression that it gives is that you have to abandon all of the work and the learning that you've done previously to go start something new. Whereas I think a more appropriate word would be evolve or evolution, right? So that's not to say that you abandon everything that you've done up until this point. That's to say that you celebrate and acknowledge everything that you've done up until this point, and you build off of those things. What's happening, and I'm not as in touch as I used to be, but what's happening in the job market right now is a lot of people are pivoting from the work that they used to do into new fields and industries. And there's a lot of focus around, okay, well, you don't have the direct skill set that's necessary for this role, but you have a transferable skill set that says, I was good at this thing in this industry, and here's how I can use that experience to be good at this thing in this industry. And for me, that's not a pivot. That's an evolution. That's taking your skill set and you're, transferring it over to a new space. That makes a more well-rounded person too, right? Because you still have the knowledge and expertise from the previous industry, but now you're building on that with a new area of focus. So for me, there's been many evolutions, right? I started as a speaker and as an author talking about the topic of mentorship. And then I evolved into talking about the topic of financial literacy, which has had many evolutions within itself, right? Financial literacy then turned into financial empowerment. Financial empowerment then turned into financial trauma. And those things are all related. They're not, completely drastic changes. But the thing that's been consistent across these different evolutions is this passion around empowering people. And how do you take what it is that you experience, that you learn, and impact somebody else in their life? So mentoring is one avenue. Talking about personal finance is another avenue. Educating on personal finance is another avenue. Okay, well, now somebody who knows what they should be doing financially, but has a hard time feeling empowered, how do we figure out how to connect those two? Then we start talking about financial trauma. And then most recently, I've been talking about controlling the narrative of what your story is. Because through this journey, I've had a lot of media, right? I've been involved with publications, whether I'm writing for them or they're writing about me, um, on different podcasts or what have you. And so the story that I told when I first started this journey was around growing up experiencing aspects of poverty. And that's a story that people can resonate with. It has like the emotional tugging on your heartstrings and what have you. But that's not the story that I want to fixate on. And so in the beginning, it was cool, right? Getting all the attention, did the TED Talk talking about it. But when, fast forward, I delivered my TED Talk in 2019. We're in 2022 now. Fast forward 2022, I don't want to talk about experiencing poverty anymore. I want to talk about what I've done since then. And so it's very important in establishing a personal brand and maintaining that personal brand to be able to control the narrative. And so everybody talks about personal branding, personal branding, personal branding. This is what you need to do. But I think a big part of that equation that's missing is how do you monitor and protect your personal brand? And more so, how do you shape your personal brand personally, right? Because there's so much out there around what the formula is, but how do you do it for you the way that you want to do it?
That was powerful. I'm over here taking notes. I hope you guys are taking notes. Um, I think one of the most powerful thing is saying that. So like Rakim talked about just like he talked about like how getting on podcasts, getting on shows, spreading his messages. At one point, he was talking about like the traumatic experience in financing, and where he was coming from growing up as an entrepreneur, that transition, that pivot. But now after having a season or two or a year of that being like the budding message that he's sharing on these platforms, he's grown, he's gotten better. He's no longer in that space that he was. So for media or other platforms wanting to continue to push that particular narrative, but it's like that's a previous narrative, and it's not a progressive narrative, and it doesn't show the full scope of where I'm at, and it actually does more of a disservice because when people are starting to listen to it, they're still hearing me and they're still coining me and connecting me to that same message, which shows no growth. So now, in the present form, if I'm going to revisit any of the previous media or any new media, we're going to be pushing the progressive or whatever my message is now, which could be that financial empowerment, like you mentioned, or stacking your bricks, laying your foundation. Okay, now you have your personal credit situated, your business credit, or maybe you started a business, whatever the case may be. Okay, what's that next level? What is now going to help you to get more enlightened to go to that next echelon of your financial journey, or maybe even your personal branding or journey. So controlling your narrative is extremely important. So I just wanted to make sure that that was highlighted as well. But I definitely feel what you're saying on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let's dial into the community. So community, do you have any questions for Rakim while we have him? Just want to make sure if anyone is thinking about anything specifically, you have the opportunity to tap in. Maybe it's something that you're thinking about. Maybe it's on something that he talked about. So far, we just touched on the importance of having a presence digitally, which I'm going to ask him to go a little further into what does that look like for someone just starting out, especially in today's landscape. So having that presence, controlling your own narrative, and then how do you monitor and protect your personal brand once you are on these digital platforms? So far, those are the things that we touched on, and then also understanding that, you don't have to be a master of one, making you a master of a master of multiple things, make you a master of none, but really becoming a master of that one thing that you are, but then giving more and expressing more of your creativity or your interests, so then you can also be a master in multiple things moving forward as you continue to evolve and grow.
Right.
So yeah, man. So let's talk about real quick. If someone is opening up a fresh Instagram account, fresh TikTok, you know what I'm saying? They're like, you know what? I've been seeing, I'm finally going to put myself out there and be on these digital spaces, these landscapes, be in social media, things like that. Let's talk about the importance of someone deciding to do that. And what are some of the things that they should consider with creating a digital brand, a digital personal brand.
Yeah, I think, and it's hard to do in the beginning, but I think that it's important to figure out how you want to be identified, right? So I'll use my own experience as an example. When I started my Instagram page, it was the name of my business, which was a very long name. Difficult to type, difficult to tell people to type. And for whatever reason, I didn't want to use my actual name. I think it was because I had a personal Instagram account and I was just like, I don't want to mix the two. And that's not to say that everybody needs to go out and create an Instagram account that is their name. But what happened was, through the process of evolution, when I changed my name from what it was to what it is now, there's a whole bunch of content that's still circulating that has me referencing that previous name. So somebody goes back to listen to that podcast or watch that interview, and I'm like, oh yeah, you can find me here. And that here is no longer there anymore, right? So that's an issue. Consistency across the platforms is also an issue. So I had, my account was this at one platform, it was that at another platform. And so when I got to a place where things were starting to pick up, I realized the importance of having the same name. I would even go as far as to say the same image as your profile icon, so that when somebody identifies, oh, this is that person on this platform, it's an easy fix, especially in the age of all of these Instagram bots impersonating people, right? You want to make sure that people can have confidence that the person that they're talking to is the person that they want to be talking to. I think secondly is understanding the way the platforms work. Um, for me in the beginning, it was all about like trying different methods, right? I would post at, these specific times. I would, use these specific hashtags, pay money to get the hashtag generator and just like so many different things. And trying to figure out, well, how do you go viral? And really understanding too that going viral like doesn't solve your problem. Going viral just gives you more exposure. And if your product or service is not necessarily tied into the reason why you went viral, then it could be an awkward plug too. It's not to say don't plug yourself, but it's to say the goal should not be to go viral. The goal should be to add value in the way that you're attempting to show up. As far as posting, and I'm certainly not an expert on this, but I would say that it's important to introduce yourself and introduce your message, right? Sometimes people just jump right into it and they're following the cadence of maybe larger accounts or other accounts that they admire without talking about, well, why should we listen to you? What makes you different? So I think, where I've realized a lot of success in my social media is that people know, yes, I'm going to talk about personal finance, but I might talk about something else too. People know that I'm going to talk about it from my perspective. I'm not just reposting a bunch of, memes and other people's content. If I am reposting somebody else's content or I am creating content that is following some type of trend, I'm tying that into my message. The reason why I want people to follow me and the reason why people have chosen to follow me. And so it's difficult when you're starting out to just show up and be authentic because you don't know. I mean, people don't know who you are, but I think that's the joy and the beauty that comes with the building process. People get to know who you are. They get to know what you're about. And so in the event that someone tries to misrepresent your message, your audience knows enough about you to say, yeah, that sounds kind of fishy. Like, I don't know that Rakim would say something like that. And I'm a very controversial person, right? When it comes to the content that I post, I use a provocative kind of teaching style. So I might say something that makes somebody scratch their head, or maybe they don't necessarily agree with me, and that's okay. But for the most part, people do understand that that's my style. And so they're not, well, I would assume that they're not going to take it personally. And if they do take it personally, then, that's on them too. But definitely the authenticity piece, which I think is just going to go back to this conversation around personal branding. The first word in that phrase is personal, right? So how your page looks is going to be very different, or should look very different than how somebody else's looks. How your story impacts other people should be different than how the next person's story. Like, there is no need to fabricate who you are in social media, and I think so many people fall into the trap of trying to fit a particular mold. And I'll raise my hand too. I did in the beginning as well, um, because they see that the other person has realized success without realizing that success can be manufactured on these platforms, right? You can buy followers, you can buy likes, and you're really in your own race to impact people in the way that you want them to be impacted, and nothing else matters.
So I hope you guys are definitely paying attention. I'm taking notes. So if I'm taking notes and I'm hosting, there's no reason why you guys ain't taking notes. But you definitely know I'm going to recap some of the gems that I caught. We have a question from the community. Whitney asks, so she has a cleaning company, right? So I just want to set the context. So what are your thoughts on pushing a personal brand, i.e., me being the literal face of my cleaning company, Whitney Cleans?
Yeah, it's a good question, and probably somebody else would give you a different opinion. So I would take what I say with a grain of salt. But I'm very pro personal branding. Like, you can be the face of your business, or you can establish a brand for yourself in tandem with your business, where you can say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, and I have this business over here, go check it out, versus I am the business, right? So there's a couple who have cleaning business, the Harzogs, and his wife. beautiful couple, just had a baby. I follow them like loyally, and their whole message around their cleaning business is that we don't have to clean. And so they talk about we don't have to clean. But as I followed them and watched their message evolve, right? They started off talking about the cleaning business from a place of we just want to eliminate debt to evolving with their cleaning business to, this is what we do as our side hustle while we're working to, Anthony just left his job and he's focusing on full-time entrepreneurship and, they just had a baby. And it's just been a beautiful experience to watch them tell their story as individuals while promoting their business. And it's not to say, like I said, that everybody has to follow that model, but I think what makes their content that is relatable or likable from my perspective, and why maybe I might consider buying their course is because I feel like, well, this is somebody that I could go to the bar with and have a conversation with, right? Oh, you're not touching a broom or a mop or whatever in your cleaning business. Well, I want to learn, like, how do you do this thing? They show up. They're really good at showing up. And I think when it comes to understanding like where that fine line is between the brand that you're trying to create for your business and the personal brand that you're creating for yourself, there is definitely value in having separation, right? Because you're not the person who's going into everybody's house that is needing cleaning, or maybe you are. I don't want to assume, but when you look at it from a position of scaling, there's only so many hours in a day and only one body, right? So imagine if you branded your business as you and your client is like, oh, I want to hire you to come clean my house. And then they see, Joe Schmo show up. They're like, nah, that's not what I signed up for. So I think it is important to have that separation, but it's also important to focus on who you are as a personal brand so that you can then have people, relate to your, because how many big cleaning businesses are there, right? How many people are doing exactly what you're doing, and how do you differentiate yourself as the business owner or the face of that business from everybody else who's doing the same thing?
Yo, those are gems, man. Those are super gems. So Whitney, you just got a quick little masterclass directly from my guy Rakim on that. So I would definitely like take heed to everything that he just said. Like you said, take it with a grain of salt. If you got to do some additional R and D, but I personally would co-sign what he's saying. So look, we are approaching the 30-minute mark. I just want to do a quick little recap of some of the gems that I caught, and then give Rakim the opportunity let you guys know how to tap into him, what else he has currently going on, and if he has any offers, services, or products that may be able to help you, how you guys can get in touch, get in touch with them. So this is a quick recap I got. So you definitely want to monitor and protect your personal brand. Definitely make sure that you're controlling the narrative in spaces. Don't let anyone shape the narrative for you. You know what I'm saying? Definitely stand up, especially if there's these online, if there's narratives that are not narratives, but if there's publications or blogs that are posting you, you know what I'm saying? Make sure that you're checking everything before it goes out, because that narrative that goes out, it's a representation of you, not a representation of that platform, right? Even if they're the ones that's putting it together. Um, have consistency in your branding. We're talking about your handle across the platform. So, what you're known for. So we just use Whitney, for instance. So if it's Whitney Cleans, have consistency in our branding. So across whatever other platforms that you're going to be on, having consistency in your branding as it relates to your images. So icons, typography, colors, and logos. Subconsciously, we just take that in. So have consistency across all the platforms with your handle, but then also whatever your profile picture or your avatar is going to be, whatever colors you're going to use. Be authentic. Now, when we're talking about being authentic in terms of a personal brand, we're talking about your personal story, your personal messages, you really being yourself, not a representation of what you think is out there, but really putting yourself out there, who you really are. Don't fall into that mode. Be relatable. Show up, which is definitely one of my favorite things. And it's important to focus on who you are as a personal brand as it relates to you being in the digital platform and in the digital spaces. So, Mr. Rakim, if I miss anything, or if there's something else that you want to highlight, definitely let them know right now. And then also let them know how they can tap into you and what you currently offer. So if they want to work with you or have any other questions on a one-on-one, they can tap into all of your brilliance.
Yeah, I think I would just kind of wrap that all up with saying that it's okay to evolve, right? We talked about evolution in place of pivoting. It's okay that if your name is, what it is across the different social platforms, that, at some point you have to change it, you have to change it. I think the biggest classic example of this was back in the day, I used to be a wrestling fan, WWF had to rebrand as WWE because of the conflict with the World Wildlife Fund using WWF as well. And so, there's still people to this day who refer to WWE as WWF because of that
That would
change
be
in
me
brand.
too. I'm in there.
So I think that's a really big example, right? They had to change their logo, they had to change, a lot of different things. But they have an impact that kind of transcends the brand name. So it's okay to evolve with the images as well. If you change your image on Instagram, then change your image on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So I can't emphasize that enough. It's okay to evolve. As far as how to find me, everything is at Rakim Sabri. So true to the message that I'm sharing, right? I have a unique name, so it wasn't difficult for me to secure that handle. Rakim Sabri on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube, TikTok, wherever there's a need, I'm probably there. And my website is also rakimsabri.com. Again, my primary focus is certainly coaching, financial coaching, with a specific area of focus on the financial trauma piece. But I'm also certified as a financial education instructor. So for anybody who does not have a basic understanding of financial literacy, I can definitely cover those items as well. Um, I do some light business coaching, just kind of really around the topics that we're talking about right now, personal branding being one of them, being probably the biggest one, in the process of creating a course on all of this, right? Why you should write a book, how to write for publications, how do you speak at events like TED or on podcasts, different things like that. So that's still being built out. I'm in the process of writing my third book called "I Fired My Boss: Escaping Corporate Trauma." And then there's a lot of work and publications that I've done. If you type my name into Google, or I think Google's a good place. You'll see a lot of the things that I've written. Get a kind of feel of what I talk about, why I talk about it. And then my DMs are always open for serious inquiries only. Don't waste my time.
100%, bro. 100%. I got one final question, and we're in OT on Imperfect Action, but it's the 25th episode, so this is how we celebrate. The one question I have, and I want people that are still tapped in or people that are watching the replay to take heed to your answer, because I want to know, but I think also it would be valuable for them. So, in the current landscape of social media, Instagram, right, TikTok, YouTube, right? There's even like Bigo Live and some other platforms that are popping up. How important or still valuable and viable is having a presence on Twitter, right? How can Twitter complement what you already have going on if you got a pretty decent following on some of these other platforms? Why would Twitter be something that you still want to be active on? Because I know you are, and I know a couple of people are. I'm fairly active on there, but a lot of people are not. They just kind of abandon it or they steer this ship away from it. So why would Twitter? Why do you still use Twitter? Why is Twitter something important that people should to use to complement whatever else they have going on?
Yeah, good question. I think Twitter can be intimidating. Certainly was for me when I restarted on Twitter. Um, because if you don't get it, like, there's a big learning curve there. A lot of time you might feel like you're tweeting out into the Twitterverse and nobody's seeing it. So it can be discouraging, but I would definitely say that it's necessary, because that's where, when we talk about personal branding, right? That's where the people that matter hang out, right? Publications, editors, um, I mean, people just with platforms, the ability to interact with and access those people, I think, is much greater on Twitter than it could be on Instagram or anywhere else. I'm actually verified on Twitter. That's the only social platform that I'm verified at. So I have a special new fondness for the platform. And I mean, one tweet can go viral. And again, I want to underscore this point that the goal should not be to go viral. But one tweet can go viral if the right person sees it or retweets it. And so your message gets out there at scale. If you have a product to follow up that viral activity with, then that's also a win. And again, there are people hanging out on Twitter that matter. Like and I should preface that with, it really depends on what your goal is. But when I talk about, I tweeted at Killer Mike a couple weeks ago, and he responded. John Cena followed me on Twitter. This is after I got verified, but it was still kind of like, oh shoot, like, I just shared I was a wrestling fan growing up, so I was like, oh, this guy followed me back on Twitter. Um, Twitter is introducing features that I think are very beneficial to what exposure looks like, right? So there was the craze around Clubhouse. Now Twitter has spaces where you can have audio only conversations and share your thoughts or jump on stage and interact with other people. They have communities now. So you have a segmented group who are interested, who are bound by their interest in whatever the community is, who gets to see your content in a way that maybe they wouldn't on the timeline. Um, and then there's just the regular tweeting. I think Twitter requires a lot more upfront work than Instagram and the other platforms. You're probably having to tweet at minimum 15 times a day your message. But it's a great platform for sales. It's a great platform to create awareness. Anytime I write an article, it goes out on Twitter multiple times. It's just understanding that because you post it once doesn't mean that everybody's going to see it. So you have to be really consistent. But it's not like Facebook and Instagram where you have to pay to play. And I think that that's important. That's a differentiator when it comes to establishing your brand and establishing credibility. Because what if you haven't established a budget for marketing or for ads or anything like that? But I would also say follow up Twitter with kind of like a 1-2 punch. LinkedIn, depending on your business model, and TikTok are the purest, I think, when it comes to organic growth potential. And so, not saying that everybody needs to be on every social platform, but I do think that it's important to have a presence that can be found in multiple avenues, in particular the avenues that are very popular, where there's getting a lot of attention, a lot of eyes, and learning how to work those platforms to your benefit.
Yo, listen. If y'all ain't getting nothing in that last question alone, let alone this entire 40 minutes that we've been talking on the 25th episode of the Imperfect Action with my esteemed guest Rakim Sabri, I don't know what you've been doing. You know what I'm saying? Because that last question and answer alone, it was so much gems packed in there. So yeah, bro, I want to thank you for putting the time aside to be able to jump on the show, give as much value as you've been able to share and give to the community. You guys make sure that you follow him at Rakim Sabri. That's RAHKIM SABREE on all of the platforms, right? We talked about that importance of branding and being consistent. I actually just told a client yesterday that, hey, you need to fix your handle because he had a dot and an underscore. I'm like, bro, you can't communicate that effectively to get people to follow you. So if you got some weird handles right now, use this episode as the opportunity to fix some of your branding, communication issues and things like that, man. I thank you, bro. I appreciate you. And this episode will be available in the playback. So if you guys miss anything, make sure you head over to my YouTube page and watch it, share it, comment, like, subscribe, follow my brother. And we'll see you guys back on Monday for episode 26. This is an Imperfect Action.